Jessica often found herself longing for her youth. Memories of carefree days under the Georgia sun filled her thoughts, especially when she was alone. Growing up in a small town with familiar faces and predictable routines felt worlds apart from her complicated adult life. Reflecting on her past relationships, Jessica pondered the lessons they had imparted. Each encounter and heartbreak had shaped her into the person she was today, leaving indelible marks on her heart. She glanced at the clock. It was 1 p.m. on a Saturday. Drinking wine this early was out of character, but today was an exception. Her eyes rested on a slender red box sitting on the coffee table, a recent delivery that brought more sadness than joy. Taking the box to her bedroom, she placed it on the bed before opening her closet. After rummaging through shoes and keepsakes, she uncovered a plastic case filled with rows of boxes in various colors. She added the red one to the collection, wondering why she clung to these items. Curiosity led her to open a third box, where she found a postcard and a CD. Playing the disc, "When I Fall in Love" by the Letterman filled the room. She read the postcard, instantly recognizing the sender, recalling the moment it arrived with a large bouquet at her workplace. Her coworkers had crowded around, eager to know who had sent the flowers. Jessica, self-assured, played the CD as the women teased her, curious about the card's message. She read it aloud, "When I give my heart, I give it all. Otherwise, I'll never fall in love. The moment I feel that you feel it too, that's when I fall in love with you." The room fell silent before everyone returned to work. Nikki, one of her colleagues, had joked, "This is a special guy. I'm jealous. Does he have a brother?" Jessica smiled, thinking that maybe she did have something extraordinary. Yet, Tony, a name synonymous with her first love, always lingered in her mind. He had been her prom date, her first foray into intimacy, and her emotional cornerstone. But when Tony left for Stanford, their connection waned until it disappeared entirely, leaving Jessica heartbroken. She dropped out of college and settled into a monotonous job at Allstate Assurance, her days marked by routine and lack of fulfillment. Evening walks with her friend Lily provided her only solace. She had hoped to hear from Tony, only to learn he was dating someone else. Despite the heartbreak, she often fantasized about a life with him. Though she tried to move forward, his memory lingered, a permanent fixture in her thoughts. Jessica had always been striking, perhaps not conventionally beautiful, but her natural allure drew people in. Standing at 5 feet 5 inches, her long brown hair framed her face perfectly. Even while dating Tony, other men often pursued her. After their breakup, she dated sporadically, with one relationship lasting 5 months. Yet her unresolved feelings for Tony cast a shadow over every romance. At 25, she met Matt, a man unlike any she had dated. After joining the Army at 18, Matt had served in various spots before retiring. He opened an auto repair shop near Jessica's office in Georgia. Their paths crossed when Jessica and Lily visited his shop because her car wouldn't start. Matt, instantly captivated by her, offered to help. Jessica, wearing a white top with black polka dots, a short black skirt, and heels, left a lasting impression. After tightening a loose wire and resolving the issue quickly, Matt earned a kiss on the cheek as thanks, along with an invitation to dinner. Matt, flustered but intrigued, eagerly accepted. Jessica momentarily thought of Tony but brushed it aside, sensing a spark with Matt. Giving him her business card, she asked him to call for directions. He promised he would. As they left, Lily expressed concern, but Jessica reassured her. She promised to check in after the date for safety, and both laughed. That evening, Matt arrived promptly at 7 p.m., despite arriving earlier and waiting to knock at the appointed time. Jessica, stirring sauce on the stove, checked her reflection in the mirror and smiled when she heard the knock, enjoying making him wait. "Be right there," she called. Matt sighed in relief when Jessica finally opened the door, greeting him with a radiant smile. She invited him inside as he handed her a bottle of wine and a small bouquet. Thanking him, she placed the flowers in a vase while he admired her. Barefoot, wearing a white blouse tucked into snug black jeans, she looked effortlessly stunning. Dinner was chicken cacciatore with spaghetti made using her homemade sauce. The meal was delightful, and their conversation flowed naturally. Matt shared stories about his military service, which moved Jessica. He also revealed his success, owning 3 auto repair shops, including the one where they had met. One of the stores even catered to luxury cars. Jessica, impressed, felt her instincts about him were right. As the evening progressed, they played games and sipped wine. When the night drew to a close, Jessica boldly asked Matt to stay longer. Though tempted, he declined, wanting to take things slow and meaningful. Jessica appreciated his sincerity, viewing it as a sign of something real. That night, Matt returned home but couldn't sleep, his thoughts consumed by Jessica and the possibility of what could be. Meanwhile, Jessica called Lily to share the details of her evening, including her bold proposition and Matt's respectful decline. Lily was stunned he had turned her down and joked, "He must be gay." Jessica laughed, assuring her that Matt's goodnight kiss proved otherwise. As Jessica slept soundly, Matt lay awake, restless and preoccupied with thoughts of her. For months later, Matt realized he was in love, though Jessica had known her feelings much earlier. A year after their first date, they married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by friends and family, then moved into Matt's house on Kensington Street. Jessica, lost in the warmth of her memories, carefully put away the disc she had just played. Her hands hovered over a gold case that held particular significance. It was a gift she had received on her wedding day. As she had prepared with her bridesmaids, a FedEx courier had delivered the box. Someone found a CD player, and Jessica played the disc while reading the card tucked inside. The song so much loved by the Times played, bringing tears to her eyes. Lily had teased her, warning not to ruin her makeup, and everyone had laughed, narrowly avoiding a beauty emergency. At the church, Jessica saw Matt in his tuxedo and felt an overwhelming sense of pride and gratitude. She silently vowed to make him happy. Recalling that moment now, her smile dimmed. A pang of regret swept over her as she felt she had let him down. She quickly returned the card and CD to the gold box, then reached for a silver one. Sliding a disc into the player, she relived their first wedding anniversary. She had gone all out, preparing for the day with a trip to the salon and a Brazilian wax, something Matt had subtly hinted at. When Matt came home, she descended the stairs, mesmerizing him. To his surprise, he dropped a silver box, spilling its contents. Quickly collecting it, he knelt in front of her and handed her a small jewelry box. "Happy anniversary, my love," he said. Inside was a dazzling 16-inch diamond necklace. Jessica, elated, asked him to fasten it around her neck. Admiring herself in the mirror, she felt it was the most exquisite gift she'd ever received. Watching her joy, Matt's heart swelled with love. He played a CD from the silver box, completing the moment. Taking her hands, he asked, "May I have this dance, beautiful lady?" As Frank Sinatra's "The Way You Look Tonight" filled the room, they danced, their love palpable. When the song ended, Matt suggested skipping dinner for the bedroom. Laughing, Jessica teased, "No way. I spent too much time and money getting ready, we're going out." Though Matt pleaded, "All I need is you, we can eat later," Jessica grinned, reminding him, "You once said anticipation makes everything better." Matt relented with a smile, knowing he'd lost this round. They enjoyed a delightful dinner at a Japanese steakhouse, followed by a comedy show, then capped the evening with dancing and conversation at a piano bar. On the way home, their anticipation simmered, electrifying the air between them. Jessica cherished the memory, recalling how perfect the night had been. She opened her jewelry box, took out a diamond choker, kissed it, and felt a tear slip down her cheek. Gently returning it, she moved to another silver box and played a Nat King Cole disc, Unforgettable. On their second anniversary, Jessica had greeted Matt in a sheer negligee. He had brought 2 boxes, which she insisted on opening first. Inside were a diamond bracelet and earrings. Asking him to help her put them on, she then handed him a disc to play. That night, they skipped formal plans, savoring pizza, wine, and each other's company. "This is even better than last year," Matt had said with a grin. Jessica agreed, adding, "Maybe we should repeat the workout," and they both laughed. The next morning, Jessica had read the card accompanying the gifts, "Unforgettable in every way, and forever that's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks I'm unforgettable too." Smiling at the memory, Jessica wished she still had the pale blue negligee from that night, now lost during a move. It had held sentimental value, a symbol of a treasured moment. Setting the card and disc aside, she turned to a white box but avoided the painful blue ones for now. The white box represented innocence lost, at least for Matt. Jessica's thoughts darkened as she recalled how Tony, her first love, had reappeared in her life 5 months after her second anniversary. Now Dr. Brooks, Tony had visited Jessica's office. The moment they saw each other, old emotions surged back. Tony suggested lunch, and Jessica, ignoring her coworkers' disapproving glances, agreed. While Jessica convinced herself it was innocent, deep down she knew the truth. She was willing to risk her marriage. When she returned to the office, Lily confronted her. "Jessica, what are you thinking? You're playing with fire." Jessica dismissed her concerns, claiming it was just lunch. Lily, unconvinced, reminded her of Tony's past betrayals and warned her about ruining her marriage. Jessica promised to tread carefully, but Lily remained skeptical. Despite the promise, Jessica couldn't suppress her desire for Tony, which began to threaten her bond with Matt. Initially, Jessica and Tony kept things light, meeting for lunch and enjoying casual conversations. However, drinks after work soon followed, escalating to secret date nights when Matt stayed late at the shop. Tony, patient and deliberate, aimed to win Jessica back, unsure if it was love or lust but indifferent to her marriage. Jessica, unable to resist, made excuses to see Tony whenever Matt was busy. When Matt had to travel to Cleveland for 5 days on business, Jessica declined his invitation to join him, using it as a chance to indulge her growing affair. As soon as Matt's flight departed, Jessica invited Tony to her home. They spent the next 5 days and 6 nights together in Matt's bed. Tony, seasoned in seduction, knew exactly how to captivate her. By the end of the week, Jessica had made up her mind. She would leave Matt for Tony, who was already planning to move into a new house. Saturday morning, after Tony left, a florist delivered a bouquet accompanied by a white box from Matt. Inside, she found a CD featuring the song 6 Days on the Road, a thoughtful surprise he had planned for her. Jessica felt a wave of guilt and anxiety as she tried to maintain secrecy about her affair. 2 weeks later, Matt returned home around 4 p.m., eager to see her. Hoping for a warm, romantic welcome, he was delighted when Jessica greeted him with a kiss and a hug. Yet his excitement quickly gave way to disappointment when, in response to his advances, Jessica muttered, "Maybe tonight, okay?" Confused and hurt, Matt murmured, "Maybe tonight," under his breath. Who is this woman, and what happened to my wife? He wondered, dejected. He busied himself unpacking his suitcases, sorting laundry, and putting away his toiletries. Later, he joined Jessica in the kitchen, where she was cooking, but when he tried to embrace her, she shrugged him off, saying, "Not now. I'm busy. Just leave me alone." Stung by her rejection, Matt retreated to the living room, sitting in silence as he stared out the window, troubled by the distance growing between them. Jessica, unable to meet his eyes, felt the weight of her guilt. Peeking into the living room, she saw Matt lost in thought, suspicion etched on his face. After dinner, Matt wordlessly led her to the bedroom, where they spent the night together. The next morning, he showered, dressed, and left the house without explanation, returning late Sunday night. When Jessica asked where he'd been, he curtly replied, "I had paperwork at the shop." "I was worried," she said. "You didn't call." "Don't you have a phone?" he snapped. "Are your fingers broken?" The rest of the evening passed in tense silence. Feeling their reunion had gone terribly wrong, Jessica returned to the boxes. Dreading what the blue boxes represented, she hesitantly opened the first one. Inside was a CD, but no card. She remembered it arriving with a bouquet of lavender flowers, a symbol of distrust. She reluctantly played the disc, which began with a Bob Seger song. "I know it's late, I know you're tired. I know I'm not in your plans. All my hopes are fading now. We have everything, let's make it last. Let's find a way. Why don't you stay?" The song took her back to the office, where her colleagues had noticed her growing closeness to Tony. Cindy, an older coworker, had confronted her, asking, "What have you done?" Jessica, deciding there was no use in hiding it, replied, "I'm leaving Matt in 2 weeks. I'll be moving in with Tony." Cindy shook her head and said, "You're making a huge mistake. Your husband adores you. This other man won't last. Stop before it's too late, he already suspects." Jessica responded defiantly, "It'll be his loss." Cindy walked away, disheartened. Nikki and Lily stayed. "Are you really planning to leave Matt?" Nikki asked cautiously. Jessica snapped, "Yes," and Nikki quietly left. Lily, disappointed, said, "You didn't take my advice. Don't come crying to me when this all falls apart," before walking away. Jessica clung to the belief that her relationship with Tony would be worth the risk. In the evening, she lashed out at Matt, accusing him, "Why did you send me that song? I'm your wife." "Matt, his frustration simmering, replied, "Really? You seem more interested in someone else. The postcard with the disc just said what I'm thinking." "You're wrong, Matt." "Just wrong," she retorted, though she knew deep down he was right. Brushing away tears, she moved on to the second blue box. She recalled finding this box the day after receiving the Bob Seger song. Inside was a letter from Matt, pouring out his heartbreak and confusion. The accompanying CD played Ronnie Milsap's "Stranger in My House." Reading Matt's words, Jessica realized how much he understood, even if she had never admitted the truth to herself. Yet, she avoided calling him. Instead, she waited for Tony to arrive, determined to bury her guilt. The third blue box brought the sharpest memories. One Friday, believing Matt wouldn't be home, Jessica invited Tony over. Matt, however, had planned to return early, bringing flowers and a CD in hopes of mending their marriage. As he pulled into the neighborhood, he noticed an unfamiliar car in the driveway. Parking a few houses away, he quietly entered, carrying the flowers and a white box. Inside, the sounds of voices and movement upstairs froze him in his tracks. Climbing the stairs with deliberate care, he avoided the creaky fifth step. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he reached the bedroom door. Slowly pushing it open, he was met with his worst fear, Jessica in bed with Tony. His heart shattered. Tears stung his eyes as Matt silently backed away, deciding against confrontation. Fearful of the legal and emotional fallout, he instead left the flowers and broken CD on the kitchen table, slamming the front door as he exited. Upstairs, Jessica heard the noise. "Did you hear that?" she asked. Tony dismissed it, but Jessica insisted on checking. Wrapping herself in a robe, she went downstairs and froze at the sight of the flowers and shattered disc. Realizing Matt knew, she felt a pang of remorse. Tony came down moments later, glancing at the display with a sneer. "How pathetic," he said dismissively. Jessica didn't agree but stayed silent. Matt stayed away for a week, during which Tony practically moved in. Jessica's guilt grew, but her resolve remained. One evening, she revisited a disc in a blue box. It played Roy Orbison's "Running Scared," with a message that asked, "Will you leave with him, or will you stay with me?" Jessica remembered receiving the box at work, delivered by courier without flowers. Her colleagues had urged her to play the disc, but she had refused, sensing it contained bad news. Later, sitting in her car, Jessica had reluctantly opened it. Cindy and Lily had approached, offering to listen with her. Sharing the painful moment, Jessica had played the disc, tears forming as the message poured out Matt's pain and fear. Matt's card had ended with a plea, "I hope you choose me." Cindy had asked, "What are you going to do?" Jessica had replied firmly, "I'm leaving with Tony." Cindy, disheartened, had muttered, "I wish I had a man who loved me enough to fight for me, even after being hurt." Jessica had replied coolly, "Haven't you been divorced twice?" Cindy admitted it but added, "I realized too late that Greg, my first husband, was the love of my life." Now, sitting at the kitchen table with packed suitcases by the door, Jessica waited. At 10 a.m., Matt walked in, saw the bags, and understood her decision. Without a word, he grabbed a beer and sat across from her, the unspoken tension hanging heavy in the air. "I guess you've made your decision," Matt said, breaking the heavy silence. "What decision?" Jessica asked, though she already knew. "You're leaving with him," Matt replied flatly. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "Then there's no point in fighting for you anymore." His tone was cold, the hurt unmistakable. "I'm sorry, Matt," she whispered, her guilt barely contained. "I think it's time for you to leave my house," he said, turning away. "Will you help me take my bags out?" she asked, hesitant. Matt's glare cut through her. "It's your choice to leave. Carry your own damn bags." Shocked, Jessica hauled her suitcases to the porch and texted Tony to pick her up. She wanted to explain, to say something to ease the pain, but Matt had already shut her out. As she turned to look back at the house, she saw him in the kitchen, sobbing silently. When he noticed her watching, he angrily slid off his wedding ring and threw it onto the table. Walking to the window, Matt locked eyes with her before closing the blinds with deliberate finality. The coldness stung, and Jessica felt a flicker of fear, not just for Matt, but for Tony, too. She knew Matt wouldn't let this go easily. When Tony arrived, he loudly insulted Matt while loading Jessica's bags into the car. Jessica was relieved Matt didn't confront him, but as they drove away, her heart sank. "I hoped we could part as friends," she thought, but she knew it wasn't possible. Shaking off the confrontation, she focused on her happiness with Tony, convinced she'd made the right decision. Jessica carefully placed the disc and card back into the blue box, returning it to its spot. It felt ironic. She had once promised Matt she would do anything to make him happy. She had failed miserably. Pulling out another blue box, Jessica remembered it all too well. Inside was a CD but no card. The memories associated with it brought a sharp pang of regret. The CD reminded her of Matt's cousin, Candace, and her wedding day. Jessica vividly recalled Candace confronting her, asking if she truly loved Matt and warning her not to hurt him. Candace had shared Matt's painful past, losing his mother to cancer at 7, his father's descent into alcoholism, and the eventual abandonment by his adoptive family. Matt had grown up tough and isolated, with scars both physical and emotional. Jessica had assumed his scars were from military shrapnel, but Candace revealed one came from a knife wound. Matt had defended her during a bar fight, protecting her from 2 aggressive men. Candace's story deepened Jessica's admiration for Matt and strengthened her resolve. She had promised Candace she would never hurt him, but now, reflecting on her actions, Jessica realized this was another promise she had broken. Jessica's mind flashed back to the Monday after their confrontation, when the blue box had arrived at her office via courier. No flowers accompanied it this time. Jessica figured Matt thought she no longer deserved them. That evening, she played the CD in her car with Lily and Cindy, curious about its meaning. The Bee Gees' To Love Somebody began to play. There's a light, a certain kind of light that never shone on me before. Can't you see what I'm like? I live and breathe for you. But what good is that if I don't have you? As the song unfolded, tears streamed down Jessica's face. She finally understood. She had been the light in Matt's life. She had stolen his happiness and shattered his love. Regret overwhelmed her. If she had known then what she knew now, she would still be Matt's wife. Placing the box back on the shelf, Jessica reached for the last white box. It arrived the Friday after the Bee Gees CD. Jessica, Lily, and Cindy had been leaving work when Matt appeared, walking toward them with his usual confident stride. His blue jeans, short-sleeve shirt, and work boots made him look as good as ever. Cindy, who stood nearby, whispered, "If he were mine, I wouldn't throw him back." Jessica shot her a scornful look but secretly agreed. When Matt reached them, he greeted Lily and Cindy politely before turning to Jessica. "You look good," he said, his gaze lingering on her. "Thank you," Jessica replied stiffly. An awkward silence followed before Matt finally spoke. "Jessica, I need to talk to you for a few minutes. Do you mind?" "I don't know, Matt. I have to get home. Tony's waiting for me," she replied. "It'll only take 5 minutes. Surely you can spare that for an old friend?" Reluctantly, Jessica agreed. Matt glanced at Cindy and Lily. "I need to talk to her alone," he said, his tone firm. The 2 women hesitated but eventually followed at a distance. Seeing this, Matt smiled wryly. "Looks like I'll have to do this with an audience," he said, turning back to Jessica. "Please, let me finish without interrupting. I have to say it all, or I won't get through it." Jessica nodded. "I know I'm not a college graduate, and I've never been good with words," he began. "I've tried to show my love through songs and gestures, but I failed. I loved you more than you'll ever know. I was happy with our life together, but I didn't see your unhappiness, and I'm sorry." Matt handed her the white box. "This is my last gift to you. If you don't respond to the song, I won't bother you again. I won't show up at your workplace or your new home. If I see you on the street, it'll be a coincidence. If your car breaks down, I'll fix it, but I'll charge you this time." Jessica smiled faintly, remembering their first meeting. "That's all I wanted to say," Matt added. He started to walk away but turned back. "One more thing, thank you for 3 wonderful years. They were the best of my life, and I'll always remember you with love." He then turned to Cindy and Lily. "Ladies, I'm glad Jessica has friends like you. I know you'll look out for her." His voice cracked. "And don't think I'd ever hurt her. Goodbye. I wish you all the best." Cindy, crying, hugged Matt and promised to protect Jessica. Lily followed, but her skepticism about Tony remained. When Matt left, Jessica, Cindy, and Lily climbed into her car to listen to the CD. Jessica hesitated. "Should I?" she asked. "Suit yourself," Lily replied, shrugging. You owe it to him, Cindy said firmly. Jessica slid the disc into the player. The Beatles' That Boy began to play. As the lyrics unfolded, Jessica realized their meaning. Matt believed Tony couldn't love her the way he did. Jessica shook her head, unwilling to accept the truth then. She returned the CD to the box, tears brimming. Her thoughts turned to the first white box she had received on a Sunday morning while heading to the mall with Lily. Matt had planned a picnic that afternoon. Jessica had wanted a new outfit for the occasion. As they drove, Lily asked, "So, how's it going with your mechanic?" Jessica, irritated, replied, "He's not just a mechanic. He owns his own business." "Calm down, I was just teasing." "So, what's going on between you two?" Lily pressed. "He loves me. I can tell by the way he smiles when he sees me, how he always takes care of my car, and waits for me with lunch. He's protective and treats me well," Jessica said. "And how do you know that?" Lily asked skeptically. "He hasn't said it yet, but I think he's waiting for me to make the first move. He's shy around women," Jessica explained. "And you? Do you love him?" Lily asked, her tone serious. Jessica hesitated. "I'm not sure. It's been so long since I felt anything like love. Not being sure won't work with a guy like Matt. You need to be certain. Do you love him?" Lily pressed again. "I think I do," Jessica admitted, "but Tony is still on my mind." Lily, frustrated, shot back, "Tony deceived you. He left and never came back. Matt loves you and is here. If you want to keep him, you need to make up your mind soon, or you'll lose him." Jessica pondered Lily's words. She believed she loved Matt but couldn't shake her lingering thoughts of Tony. Still, she didn't want to lose Matt, knowing deep down he was the best thing for her. That evening, Jessica prepared for their date at Maplewood Park. Matt arrived with food, wine, and a blanket for a picnic. They had a lovely day together, but Matt had to leave early for a business meeting with Avis. "I know you have to go," Jessica said as he got ready to leave. "Will you call me tomorrow after the meeting?" Matt kissed her. "You can count on it." After he left, Jessica changed into something more comfortable. Later, the doorbell rang. Surprised, she opened the door to find Matt standing there, slightly out of breath. "Did you forget something?" she asked, smiling. "Yes, you," he said, embracing her. He stepped back and held up a thin white box. "Tomorrow, I will meet an influential business partner. I can talk confidently with him, but with you, I struggle," Matt stammered, handing her the box. "I hope this shows how I feel. Call me anytime." Jessica took the box and watched him drive away. Inside, she found a CD and a note. She played the disc, and Randy Travis's "Can I Trust You with My Heart" filled the room. The note echoed the same question. That night, Jessica called Matt and said softly, "You can trust me with your heart." Matt's voice was jubilant. "I'll be right there," he shouted, hanging up. Minutes later, he arrived, swept her into his arms, and carried her inside. "I love you, Jessica," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I feel the same way," she replied. That night, they made love for the first time, but Jessica hadn't said the words, "I love you too." Remembering this now, Jessica cried, realizing she had loved Matt all along. But it was too late. She set aside the white box and reached for the black one. It had been 3 weeks since she last spoke to Matt. True to her word, she hadn't seen or heard from him. On Friday morning, Tony asked, "Want to go out to eat tonight? How about Kelly's downtown?" "No," Jessica snapped. "Matt and I used to go there. Let's try the new bar and grill near your work." Tony agreed, and they went to Easton, a new pub. The atmosphere was chilly, with the waitress and bartender eyeing them with contempt as they entered. They took a booth in the back, and Jessica's stomach dropped when she saw Matt walk in and sit at the bar. "Did you know he'd be here?" she asked Tony. "No, of course not," Tony replied, smirking. Jessica didn't believe him. Tony got up, approached Matt at the bar, and feigned surprise. "Hey, buddy. I didn't see you there." Matt glanced at him and returned to his drink. Tony smirked. "Don't be upset, she picked the best man, and it wasn't you." Matt's reply was calm but cutting. "Yeah, she picked you." "That's right," Tony gloated. "She chose me over you." Jessica watched, horrified, as Matt finished his drink and stood. The bartender told him his drink was in the house. Matt walked over to Jessica and said coldly, "That was low, Jessica. Even for you. Did you enjoy seeing me humiliated? I promised to leave you alone, and I did. Do I get it now? You two were made for each other. I didn't know anything about this. You have to believe me." Jessica pleaded. "Why should I? After what you did, I don't trust you." "And I sure don't like him," Matt snapped. Tony sauntered over, grinning. "Still here, Matt?" Matt's hand clenched into a fist, and Jessica remembered how he had taught her to punch properly. She saw a flicker of fear in Tony's eyes. A waitress intervened. "This isn't the place for that," she said firmly. Without taking his eyes off Tony, Matt replied, "You're probably right, Betsy." Then he backed away and left the pub. Tony followed him to the exit, watching him go. Betsy turned to Jessica. "So, you dumped Matt for that idiot?" "This is the third time he's done this to Matt." Shaking her head, she walked away. Tony returned, visibly upset. "What did he say to you?" he demanded. Before Jessica could respond, a man approached. "I'm Ben. I was at your wedding with Matt." "Sorry, I don't remember you," Jessica replied, embarrassed. "I'm Matt's friend," Ben continued. "Tonight's meal is in the house, but you need to leave immediately and never come back." Jessica's face burned with shame. Tony laughed. Ben's expression darkened. "Matt won't cause trouble, but if he sees you again, run. He won't be merciful." Tony smirked. "I'm not afraid of him." "Don't say you weren't warned," Ben said, walking away. Jessica ate in silence, furious at Tony for setting Matt up. She had liked Ben and his wife and regretted that she couldn't return to the pub. Tony, to make things worse, hadn't left a tip. That night, Jessica and Tony had their first major fight. His inability to understand her lingering feelings for Matt infuriated him, and Jessica realized Tony couldn't stop Matt if Matt decided to come back into her life. A week later, at work, Matt's cousin Candace arrived, looking professional and livid. "You're not good at keeping promises, Jessica," Candace hissed. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen," Jessica said weakly. Candace pulled out an attaché case. "Are you still Jessica Long?" "Yes," Jessica replied. "Good," Candace said, placing a white folder on the desk. "You've been served." She then threw a black box on top of the folder. "You stupid, cheating witch. You heard him. My cousin was always too good for you. Listen to the CD. It's beautiful. Goodbye." As Candace turned to leave, Nikki approached her. After a brief exchange, Candace smiled, nodded, and left laughing. Cindy and Lily joined Jessica. "Do you want to listen now, or wait until the end of the day?" Lily asked. Jessica hesitated. In the car, she decided. Candace said it was beautiful, why not now? Jessica murmured as she inserted the disc. Garth Brooks's The Dance began to play, its lyrics reflecting Matt's feelings about their time together, despite the heartbreak. Cindy and Lily cried, but Jessica remained dry-eyed. The office women were moved by the song, but Jessica finally grasped Matt's message in silence. She placed the CD back in the box, knowing she'd see Matt one final time to finalize the divorce. The papers split everything evenly, except for Matt's business, which Jessica didn't contest. A month after the 6-month waiting period, Jessica and Tony were married. Tony's practice thrived, and they bought a house near Matt's. As his workload increased, Tony often worked late. One Friday night, his secretary called Jessica to let her know he'd be delayed. Feeling thoughtful, Jessica decided to bring him dinner at the office. When she arrived, she noticed 2 cars in the parking lot, Tony's and one she didn't recognize. Unlocking the door, she walked in and heard noises coming from an exam room. Opening the door, she found Tony with another woman. Furious, Jessica threw the chicken cacciatore at them and stormed out. Driving aimlessly, she laughed bitterly at the absurdity of it all before calling Lily, who was at a bachelorette party. Jessica begged to meet her, and they agreed to meet outside the Heartstone Tavern. Lily warned her, "Matt's there with a date." Jessica didn't care. As she drove, Jessica reflected on her situation. She finally understood the pain and humiliation Matt must have felt seeing her with Tony. Now, she had no one to turn to but her friends, just as Matt had endured his heartbreak alone. Jessica parked outside the pub, sobbing softly as Lily and Cindy climbed into her car. What happened? Lily asked immediately. Through tears, Jessica recounted what she had seen. I walked in on my new husband with a 40-year-old bleached blonde on the exam table, Jessica growled. Neither Lily nor Cindy seemed surprised. They had never liked Tony and were more shocked it had taken Jessica this long to see the truth. Cindy said, "What goes around comes around." "I know," Jessica cried. "I betrayed and humiliated Matt. Now I understand his pain." Jessica continued, "I didn't feel it until now." Lily and Cindy exchanged glances, choosing not to scold her further. "What are you going to do next?" Cindy asked. "I don't know," Jessica replied, her voice shaking. After a pause, she made up her mind. "I'm going home to confront Tony. What he did is unacceptable. Do you want us to come with you?" Lily asked. "No. I need to do this alone," Jessica said firmly. The two women got out of the car and watched Jessica drive away. As they walked back into the pub, they spotted Matt at the bar. He greeted them warmly, but their response was cool. "Did I do something wrong?" Matt asked, puzzled. "I'll go." "Wait, Matt," Lily called after him. "It's not what you think. We need to talk to you." Matt looked to his date, who nodded her agreement, and joined Lily and Cindy at their table. "Why the cold shoulder?" Matt asked. "It's not you," Cindy explained. "We got bad news tonight. Is there anything I can do to help?" Matt offered. "There probably is, but I'm not sure you'd want to," Lily said. "What are you talking about?" Matt asked, his tone hardening. Lily hesitated before whispering, "Jessica caught Tony cheating tonight." Matt's face went blank, then twisted into a bitter laugh. "Karma's a witch," he said. "Why are you telling me this?" "Nothing," Cindy replied. "We just thought you should know why we came here tonight." Matt's demeanor softened. "Where is she now?" "She went home to confront him," Lily replied. "That's a bad idea," Matt said, shaking his head. "Tony's a coward, but that doesn't mean he won't lash out." Cindy snapped, "If he's such a coward, why didn't you fight for her?" Matt looked at her sadly. "She said she loved him and didn't love me anymore. What was the point in fighting? I was in a lose-lose situation." "Do you get it now, Cindy?" he asked. Cindy nodded, embarrassed. Lily asked, "So what are you going to do?" "Nothing," Matt replied firmly. "This isn't my problem anymore." "You can't say that," Lily protested. "You loved her once. That was a long time ago." "People change," Matt replied. Cindy spoke up. "Matt, I've known you for years, and I've talked to Ben. Everyone respects you, even when you're angry. Jessica was your best friend. Even when she hurt you, you didn't abandon her. Maybe it's your upbringing or military background, but you don't let people down. You won't let her down now, either." Matt shook his head. "This is a family matter, Cindy. She made her bed. It's her problem now. If she ever needs real help, I'll be there. But this doesn't qualify. She hurt me, too." After an awkward silence, Matt stood. "Ladies, I'd rather see you under better circumstances next time. Hopefully, we can laugh and have a drink. For now, I need to get back to my date." As he walked away, he added, "If anything bad happens, let me know." The woman nodded, watching Matt return to his table. His companion appeared to scold him gently before placing a hand on him and saying, "I understand." Pushing his plate away, Matt eventually left with her. Lily and Cindy wondered how Jessica's confrontation with Tony had gone as they paid the bill and left the bar, their spirits low. On Monday and Tuesday, Jessica called in sick. Concerned, Lily called Tony's office on Tuesday. It was open, and Tony was working. Lily left a message for Jessica, but she didn't respond. By Wednesday morning, Lily and Cindy decided they'd check on her if she didn't return to work. At 9:05 a.m., Jessica walked into the office wearing large sunglasses to hide bruises. Lily and Cindy quickly pulled her into the ladies' room, where they saw the damage. "What happened?" they demanded. Through tears, Jessica recounted the events. When she had arrived home, Tony had yelled, "Where have you been? Who are you talking to? Why did you throw food at us?" Jessica had retorted, "So important that you had to entertain her on your exam table?" Furious, Tony growled, "From now on, if I work late, you'll put up with it. If you don't like it, leave. Do you understand?" Jessica, horrified, had nodded. The next morning, she woke with a swollen face and spent the day trying to reduce the swelling. Tony had been absent, returning Sunday afternoon without explanation. That night, he demanded intimacy, but Jessica refused. The women listened, stunned and furious. "You need to go to the police," Lily said firmly. "No," Jessica cried. "I want this marriage to work. I've already ruined one." The women exploded in anger. "That monster won't stop," Cindy shouted. Jessica simply wept. "I know. I just can't give up yet." Lily shook her head in exasperation. "I'm done. I don't know what else to say." She stormed out, with Cindy following. Before leaving, Cindy took a quick photo of Jessica's injuries. She knew what she had to do. Later, Cindy arrived at Matt's shop. Wiping his hands on a rag, he greeted her warmly. "Good to see you, Cindy. Car trouble?" "No," she said, her voice steely. "I need to talk to you. In private." Matt looked puzzled but motioned Cindy into a small office. She took a deep breath before blurting out, "Jessica's having problems with Tony." Matt's expression hardened. "Any problems with that creep are no longer my concern. Do you remember when you gave her the Beatles box?" Cindy asked. "Yeah. It didn't work out, she ripped my heart out. Why should I care now?" Matt ranted. Cindy pulled out her phone and showed him the photo of Jessica's bruises. Matt's eyes narrowed. "What do you want from me?" he asked coldly. "Are you going to do something?" "You said you'd protect her," Cindy said. "Call the police." "Looks like assault to me," Matt replied flatly. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" Cindy was furious. She had an affair. She broke her vows. Why should I care about her pain? Matt shot back. "Because you loved her. Isn't that reason enough?" Cindy exclaimed. "I loved her once, but not anymore." "Tell her to call the police, I'm not getting involved," Matt stated firmly. Cindy shook her head in disbelief. "You surprised me today. I thought better of you." Matt stood, anger flashing in his eyes. "She's not my wife. She chose him over me. She made her bed, let her lie in it. Tell her to get a divorce." "I'm sorry if I disappointed you, Cindy, but I just can't." Cindy left the office, apologizing. "I'm sorry I bothered you. I hope I didn't ruin your evening." Matt stood in the shop, watching her leave. Cindy glanced through her windshield, trying to read his expression. Pain, anger, contempt, hatred, it was hard to tell. Whatever he felt, he had made his decision. As Cindy drove away, she thought bitterly, "Jessica, you've really screwed this up." She had been certain Matt would help, but now she had no idea how to support Jessica. By Thursday, Jessica was back at work, but her mood was sour. By Monday, something had shifted. She walked in, greeted everyone, and even smiled, something she hadn't done in weeks. Lily and Cindy quickly pulled her into the restroom, locking the door. "What's going on, Jessica? What happened?" Lily demanded. Jessica took a deep breath before revealing, "Tony was attacked Friday night outside his office. Whoever did it made him promise to apologize to me and threatened to come back if he didn't. Tony doesn't know who it was, but I do." "How do you know?" Cindy asked, intrigued. "I heard him cursing my ex-husband, Matt, in the shower," Jessica said with a small giggle. Cindy looked surprised. "How did Matt know?" "I told him on Wednesday after work," Cindy admitted. Jessica hugged Cindy tightly. "Thank you." "You should thank Matt," Cindy said. "I don't know," Jessica said hesitantly. "I don't think he's very fond of me right now." "You still should," Cindy insisted. That evening, Jessica, Lily, and Cindy went to the East Avenue pub. They sat at a table near Matt, who was sipping his drink, lost in thought. Lily gestured for Jessica to go to him. Nervous, Jessica approached and sat beside him, noticing his bandaged arm. "That must hurt," she said softly, touching it gently. Without looking at her, Matt replied, "It's not that bad." "What do you need, Jessica?" "Please, I just want to talk, not fight. Do you mind?" He nodded for her to continue. "I want to thank you for what you did on Friday. I know it was you. After everything I did, you still helped me. I needed someone, and you were there. I had to thank you in person." Matt finally turned to face her, pulling his bandaged hand away. You wanted to thank me? It wasn't necessary. Were you worried about me when you left? Did you care about my pain? No. You only cared about yourself. Why do you care now? Jessica looked down, unable to respond. You got what you wanted, a doctor's wife instead of a mechanic's. You used me, and now I'm alone. My hands hurt, my girlfriend dumped me for helping you, and I could go to jail. Tomorrow, you'll have someone else in your bed. The only company I have is my pain. Why don't you just go away? All three of you, leave me alone. Jessica's face went pale at his words. Looking her straight in the eye, Matt said coldly, just leave. She opened her mouth to speak, but he silenced her with a wave of his injured hand. If you don't leave, then I will. He slid off the bar stool and left, giving Cindy and Lily a disapproving glance as he passed. Jessica was shaken. She looked to her friends, unsure of what to do. Go after him, Lily urged. The women ran outside just in time to see Matt driving away in his truck. Disheartened, they went to Lily's house to talk. Feeling despondent, Jessica pulled out the last blue box. There was no note inside. She placed the CD in the player and listened as Randy Travis' I Told You So began to play. Suppose I called you tonight and told you I love you. Suppose I said I want to come home. Jessica's heart broke as the lyrics mirrored her regrets. She remembered the Wednesday night when the package arrived. From the handwriting, she knew it was from Matt. Crying, she had listened to the song at Lily's apartment, realizing Matt was done with her. For the first time in a long while, Jessica sobbed uncontrollably. She knew she had lost Matt forever. Shortly after receiving the package, Jessica quit her job and took a receptionist position at a local doctor's office. It paid less, but it spared her the judgment of her former coworkers. She stayed with Lily for 3 months before renting a small apartment from an elderly patient. Jessica's divorce from Tony moved forward, and she began receiving alimony. Combined with her job, it was enough to cover her expenses. She tried to reconnect with Matt, leaving messages and emails, but he never replied. One Friday, Jessica and Lily planned a night out. When they arrived at Lily's apartment, they were surprised to see Matt's cousin Candace and Jessica's former coworker, Nikki, in the parking lot. What are they doing here? Lily wondered aloud. I don't know, but I don't like it, Jessica replied. The two cautiously approached. Hi, Jessica, Candace said. We need to talk to you about something important. Can we go inside? Jessica hesitated. What is this about? I don't want trouble. It's not trouble. Please, hear us out, Nikki said gently. Inside, after some small talk, Nikki got to the point. Jessica, I know you've been calling and emailing Matt. It's a free country, Jessica replied defensively. Matt doesn't want to tell you, but I will. You need to stop, Nikki said. He's too polite to tell you himself, but I'm not. Candace added, Jessica, please listen. Matt and Nikki are getting married next Saturday. Jessica froze, tears welling in her eyes. Please stop contacting him, Nikki continued. I'm a jealous woman. I won't tolerate another woman reaching out to my husband. Candace handed Jessica a thin red box. Listen to the CD inside. We're sorry about how things turned out, but you needed to know. After they left, Jessica played the CD. The Shirelles' Foolish Little Girl played. You broke his heart and made him cry, now he's found another love, and there's nothing you can do. Jessica realized Candace was right. She had lost Matt forever. For the first time, she truly understood the value of the love she had thrown away.